आएंगे और आपको विश्वास दिलाते हैं, आपल्याला विश्वास देतो की 2024 मध्ये पुन्हा हा महाराष्ट्र मोदीजींच्या मागे उभा राहील आणि पुन्हा 45+ लोकसभेच्या सीट या महाराष्ट्रामध्ये मोदीजींवर विश्वास ठेवून जनता आम्हाला देईल, हा विश्वास या ठिकाणी व्यक्त करतो। आपण या महाराष्ट्रात आले, पुन्हा एकदा या महाराष्ट्राच्या जनतेमार्फत आपले आभार मानतो आणि माझा प्रास्ताविक संपवतो। खूप खूप धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद बावनकुळे साहेब। या अभियानाची व्यापकता काय असेल हे आपण या ठिकाणी सांगितलं। देशामध्ये अभियान जोरात सुरू आहे, राज्यातही मोठ्या प्रमाणावर होणार आहे आणि या राज्यालाही सेवा, प्रशासन आणि चांगली या ठिकाणी विकासाची गती देणाऱ्या अशा राज्याचं आपलं नेतृत्व, या राज्याचे उपमुख्यमंत्री आदरणीय देवेंद्र फडणवीस साहेब यांना मी विनंती करतो की आपण या ठिकाणी मार्गदर्शन करावं। सन्माननीय देवेंद्र फडणवीस साहेब।
केंद्रीय वित्त मंत्री माननीय निर्मला जी, माननीय विनोद तावडे जी, चंद्रशेखर बावनकुळे जी, आशीष शेलार जी, मंगलप्रभात लोढा जी, प्रवीण दरेकर जी, सर्वच मान्यवर आणि उपस्थित सर्व मीडियातील बंधू आणि भगिनींनो, माननीय नरेंद्र मोदीजी यांच्या नेतृत्वातील सरकारला 9 वर्ष पूर्ण होत आहेत आणि एक महासंपर्क अभियान भारतीय जनता पक्षाच्या वतीने आयोजित केलं आहे। या 9 वर्षाच्या काळाचं सिंहावलोकन करण्याकरता माननीय केंद्रीय मंत्री निर्मलाजी सीतारामन या आपल्यामध्ये आलेल्या आहेत आणि संपूर्ण या 9 वर्षातल्या उपलब्धी आपल्यासमोर त्या निश्चितपणे मांडतील। खरं तर 2004 ते 2014 या कालावधीमध्ये आपण एक यूपीएचं सरकार बघितलं की निर्णय न घेणं हा ज्या सरकारचा सगळ्यात मोठा निर्णय होता। निर्णय लकवा अशा प्रकारची त्या सरकारची नीती होती आणि अशा प्रकारे त्या सरकारचा उल्लेख देखील केला जायचा। प्रचंड भ्रष्टाचाराने ग्रसित जेवढे मला असं वाटतं इनफेमस ऐतिहासिक स्कॅम्स हे यूपीएच्या सरकारमध्ये झाले तेवढे स्वतंत्र भारताच्या इतिहासात कधी झाले नव्हते। अशा प्रकारची अवस्था आपण बघितली आणि मग त्या पार्श्वभूमीवर माननीय मोदीजींचं सरकार आल्यानंतर मागील 9 वर्षामध्ये अतिशय गतिमान निर्णय प्रक्रिया आपण बघितली, प्रचंड विकास आपण बघितला। कुठल्याही प्रकारे एकही डाग सरकारवर कोणी लावू शकलं नाही, कोणी बोटं उचलू शकले नाहीत। भ्रष्टाचार मुक्त व्यवस्था या देशातला सगळ्यात मोठा प्रश्न, देशाची डिलिव्हरी सिस्टीम होती ती पूर्णपणे करप्शन फ्री करण्याचं काम हे मोठ्या प्रमाणात माननीय मोदीजींनी केलं आणि तंत्रज्ञानाचा उपयोग करून गरीब कल्याणाचा अजेंडा चालवत असताना गरिबांपर्यंत त्यांचे अधिकार पहिल्यांदा या देशामध्ये पोहोचवण्याचं काम हे माननीय मोदीजींच्या नेतृत्वात झालेलं आपण बघितलं। खरं म्हणजे एकूणच या देशामध्ये विविध योजना ज्या काही मोदीजींच्या नेतृत्वात सुरू झाल्या त्याच्या बेनिफिशरीजचा जर आपण विचार केला तर महाराष्ट्रातली त्याची संख्या जर आपण बघितली, मी देशातलं बोलत नाही पण महाराष्ट्राचा जरी आपण विचार केला तरी महाराष्ट्रामध्ये कोरोनाच्या काळामध्ये जवळपास 17,79,00,000 डोजेस हे महाराष्ट्रातल्या जनतेला मोफत देण्याचं काम हे माननीय मोदीजींच्या सरकारने केलं. प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना शहरी आणि ग्रामीण मिळून 25 लाखपेक्षा जास्त घरं ही बांधून तयार झाली आणि आता अनेक घरांचं काम हे या ठिकाणी चाललेलं आहे. जलजीवन मिशनच्या अंतर्गत 1,11,00,000 घरांमध्ये पिण्याच्या पाण्याचा नळ स्वातंत्र्याच्या 75 वर्षानंतर पोचला आणि अजूनही याचं काम चाललेलं आहे. पीएम उज्ज्वला योजनेच्या अंतर्गत जवळपास 38,90,000 या ठिकाणी बेनिफिशरीजला त्या अंतर्गत फायदा झाला आणि आयुष्यमान भारत योजनेच्या अंतर्गत 71 लाख गरीब लोकांना 5 लाखापर्यंतचा मोफत उपचार हा त्या ठिकाणी देणं सुरू झालं. त्याचबरोबर पीएम किसान सन्मान योजना ज्याच्यामध्ये शेतकऱ्यांना थेट 6,000 रुपये त्यांच्या खात्यात दिले जातात आणि आपल्याला कल्पना आहे की आता महाराष्ट्राच्या सरकारने देखील यात 6,000 रुपये देण्याचं ठरवलं आहे. 12,000 रुपये आता शेतकऱ्यांना मिळणार आहे. याच्यामध्ये 1,10,00,000 शेतकऱ्यांना 1,10,14,738 शेतकऱ्यांना याचा फायदा मिळाला आहे. त्याचप्रमाणे कौशल विकास योजना ज्याच्यातनं आपण स्किल इम्पार्ट केले या योजनेच्या अंतर्गत 10,27,000 युवांना त्याचा फायदा मिळाला. पीएम फसल बीमा योजना 87 लाख शेतकऱ्यांना त्याचा फायदा मिळाला. त्याचप्रमाणे जो आमचा रस्त्यावर काम करणारा पानपट्रीवाला ठेलेवाला अशा प्रकारचं काम करणारा जो स्ट्रीट वेंडर आहे अशाही जवळपास 5 लाख स्ट्रीट वेंडर्सला पीएम स्वनिधीमधनं त्या ठिकाणी मदत मिळाली आणि आता सेकंड राऊंड देखील त्याचा चाललेला आहे. मुद्रा योजनेतनं 41,50,000 41,58,000 उद्योजकांना मुद्रा योजनेचा लाभ झाला आणि ते आपल्या पायावर उभे राहिले. मला असं वाटतं की हा एक आकडा सांगतो जे लोक रोजगार स्वयंरोजगाराच्या बद्दल बोलतात. एकट्या महाराष्ट्रामध्ये 41 लाख लोकांना मुद्रा योजनेचा फायदा या ठिकाणी झाला आहे. अटल पेन्शन योजना जवळपास 40 लाख लोकांना याचा फायदा झाला आहे. सुकन्या समृद्धी योजना 23 लाख मुलींच्या जन्मानंतर त्याचा त्या कुटुंबांना फायदा झाला आहे. पीएम मातृवंदना योजनेमध्ये 32 लाख मातांना याचा फायदा झाला आहे. यादी खूप मोठी आहे. आपल्याला माहिती आहे की मोठ्या प्रमाणात जवळजवळ महाराष्ट्रातल्या 4 कोटी कुटुंबांना मोफत अन्न हे गेली 2 वर्ष माननीय मोदीजींनी त्या ठिकाणी उपलब्ध करून दिलं आहे आणि म्हणून एकूणच गरीब कल्याणाचा अजेंडा राबवत असताना महाराष्ट्रामध्ये आज केंद्र सरकारच्या मदतीनं चालू असलेली इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चरची जी कामं आहेत या कामांचे जर आपण एकूण टोटल बघितली 4 लाख कोटीपेक्षा जास्त किमतीची इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चरची कामं ही एकट्या महाराष्ट्रामध्ये केंद्र सरकारच्या मदतीने चालली आहे आणि आपण जर याचा हिशोब लावला तर कदाचित 20 वर्षात जी आधी कामं होऊ शकली नाही ती गेल्या 9 वर्षामध्ये आपण या महाराष्ट्रामध्ये केलेली आहेत केंद्र सरकारच्या माध्यमातून. आणि म्हणून मला असं वाटतं की एकीकडे विकास आणि दुसरीकडे सामान्य माणसाचं कल्याण करणारा अशा प्रकारचं हे सरकार या ठिकाणी राहिलं आहे. खरं तर सांगण्यासारख्या गोष्टी खूप आहेत पण निर्मलाजी या ठिकाणी आलेले आहेत आणि निर्मलाजींमध्ये आणि आपल्यामध्ये अधिक वेळ घेण्याची माझी इच्छा नाही. पण माननीय मोदीजींचे मी आभार देखील मानतो आणि मोदी सरकारचं अभिनंदन देखील करतो की खऱ्या अर्थानं नवा भारत घडताना आम्ही पाहतोय. 2014 पूर्वीचा भारत आणि 2023चा भारत याच्यातला जो काही एक प्रचंड मोठा फरक आहे तो महाराष्ट्रामध्ये देखील आपण अनुभवतोय, देशामध्ये आपण अनुभवतोय. आणि मला विश्वास आहे की मोदीजींच्या नेतृत्वात जो भारताने एक विकसित भारताचा संकल्प केलाय तो निश्चितपणे पूर्ण होईल. आणि या त्यांच्या संकल्पामध्ये निश्चितपणे माननीय मोदीजींसोबत महाराष्ट्र हा पूर्ण ताकदीनं उभा राहील अशा प्रकारचा विश्वास देखील मी व्यक्त करतो. आणि पुन्हा एकदा आपल्या सर्वांचं स्वागत करतो, आपले आभार मानतो. धन्यवाद.
धन्यवाद फडणवीस साहेब. केंद्राच्या माध्यमातून महाराष्ट्राला मिळालेला निधी आणि समाजातील विविध घटकांना कशा पद्धतीनं लाभ झालाय आणि इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चर कशा पद्धतीनं डेव्हलप झालं याविषयी गोषवारा 9 वर्षाचा आपण या ठिकाणी महाराष्ट्रासाठीचा मांडलात. अभी इस देश के वित्त मंत्री मोदी साहब के नेतृत्व में देश में काम कर रही है ऐसी हमारी नेता और देश की फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर, जिन्होंने फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर करके एक अलग ऐसी छवि प्रतिमा इस देश में सरकार में खुद की बनी है. ऐसा हमारे सबके आदरणीय निर्मला जी यहाँ पावर पॉइंट प्रेजेंटेशन करेंगे, मार्गदर्शन करेंगे और उसके बाद में पत्रकारों से संवाद होगा. मैं विनंती करता हूँ हमारी देश की फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर निर्मला जी सीतारामन मैडम.
उजला सा चमन चारों दिशा फैला अमन, मेरे देश तुझे नमन, मेरे देश तुझे नमन. नौसान मुझे हर बार तेरे आगे झुकने का मन हुआ, जब झुका मैं तेरे आगे तेरा होने का मुझे गर्व हुआ. दुनिया को राह दिखाता तू ही तो मेरा प्यारा है, इसीलिए तेरे आगे बार बार दिल हारा है. मेरे देश तुझे नमन, मेरे देश तुझे नमन. मैं झुका तिरंगे के आगे, मैं झुका माँ के चरणों में, मैं झुका नेताजी के आगे, मैं झुका पिता के कदमों में.
समझ लीजिए ये कागज ही है लेकिन इसकी अहमियत बहुत ज्यादा बड़ी है.
भगवान के बाद अगर घर में नाम लिया जा रहा था तो सर वो आप थे. मोदी जी हमें बचा लेंगे, अब जो भी कर सकते हैं मोदी जी कर सकते हैं.
मेरे देश तुझे नमन, मेरे देश तुझे नमन, मेरे देश तुझे नमन, मेरे देश तुझे नमन. मेरा देश ही ऐसा इकलौता जिसने दुनिया को दंग किया. मेरा देश है दुनिया का हीरा जो दुनिया के है संग खड़ा.
250 साल तक जो हम पर राज करके गए उनको पीछे छोड़ करके दुनिया की इकोनॉमी में आगे निकल.
मेरे देश तुझे नमन, मेरे देश तुझे नमन. छोटे बड़ों का भेद नहीं, 9 साल का भारत है. अमृत काल के द्वार खड़ी देश की नई इमारत है. मेरे देश तुझे नमन, मेरे देश तुझे नमन, मेरे देश तुझे नमन, मेरे देश तुझे नमन.
आज जब हम अमृत काल में प्रवेश कर रहे हैं, अगले 25 वर्ष हमारे देश के लिए अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण है.
मेरे देश तुझे नमन, मेरे देश तुझे नमन, मेरे देश तुझे नमन, मेरे देश तुझे नमन.
सबको नमस्कार. As was explained before, all over the country, marking the 9-year completion of Prime Minister Modi and the team, there are press conferences, interaction with media, and also discussion on what actually has happened in the 9 years. So as a part of that, I'm here today in the financial capital of India, having an opportunity in the presence of top leadership of Maharashtra of BJP to interact with you, the media personnel. Thank you very much for coming here. What I would broadly indicate to you before I start on this slide presentation is, it consists totally of about 55 different slides. I don't want to spend time on each one of them because we are also giving you a handout of several data inclusive of this presentation. So you will certainly get to seeing each one of them. But for you, I'll give a broad classification of what we've put together. So 9 years under certain heads, 9 years under certain other heads. Like that, you will be able to follow it as I go through rapidly, so that my opening statement and also the slide presentation doesn't take more than 10-15 minutes. Then you're welcome to ask questions. I said there are 55 slides. So the first 20 slides, broadly, it can be 20, 21, whatever. First 20 slides look at how the poor, the Dalit, the backward, the SC, ST are all being attended to with provision of basic needs. So I start with about the first 20 slides, Dalit, Pichda, Vanchit, Soshit, Pidit, उनके लिए सरकार के द्वारा क्या क्या पिछले 9 साल में अचीव हुआ, उसका विवरण आएगा डेटा सहित. Next, about 21 to 34 slide numbers, you have details on infrastructure. There are 1 or 2 infrastructure related slides which come later also, but largely between slide 24 to slide 34, it's details about how much has been achieved in terms of infrastructure. When I speak of infrastructure, it's multimodal. It's not just roads, it's not just flyovers, it's harbors, ports, inland waterways and everything else. Then, from slide 35 to slide 37, it's about financial inclusion. How the poorest of the poor, how middle class, how small vendors, how people who have never had a bank account earlier have all been brought into the fold of formal financial systems. It can be through NBFC, it can be through banks, it can be nationalized banks, or it can be a rural credit cooperative, whatever be it. Next, from slide 38 to slide 42, roughly, you're talking about digital India, you're talking about startups, you're talking about skills, then also ease of doing business. So how many laws have been thrown away as being archaic, and how many compliances have been reduced so that chota businesses don't have to do so much file work. So those details, exactly all that done in the 9 years only. Then you go to 43, slide number 43 to slide number 46. You're talking about the cultural and inheritance, legacy, civilizational, and those aspects, what have been achieved in the 9 years. 47, slide number 47 is a single slide, but very important to understand what we have achieved in the renewable energy area. It's a major mile forward. In fact, it is a major achievement, if I may use that word. No country within the 9 years, comparable 9 years everywhere, has achieved as much as we have achieved in these 9 years in renewable energy. So you have the data given there. There is one slide on national security, but the following slides also will tell you what importance is given to national security, and as a result what fallout we've had in other aspects related to national security. For instance, how because Prime Minister Modi has put terrorism as one of those which have to be roundly and squarely addressed, we've not had major incidents, border skirmishes apart, but you still in the mainland of the country, we've kept terrorism free by putting India first. And by putting India first, you also responded to by other countries, which has helped us to get our people, if they were held or stuck up because of COVID, no transport was moving, no communication was happening, but how did we bring all our students or young people or citizens who were caught up in different parts of the world because COVID came and lockdown came in all in a sudden. So we managed to get them back. We managed to get people who were stuck up because of strife, local civil war or whatever, or because in countries our students went to study and there was a war, we had to bring them back. So, although slide number 48 is one slide which relates to national security, there are some slides which tell you about how many people have been brought back safely to our country back again. Then there are 49 and slide 50 will talk about how defense, in the area of defense, we've achieved Atmanirbharta. We are procuring less from outside, we are manufacturing more ourselves, and we are exporting a lot more ourselves. So that relates to it. And finally, 48 I said is a national security slide, and then I stretched it to say how our students are being brought back, citizens are being brought back. Slides 51 to 54 give you all the details about the number of people who have been brought back safely like that. And the last slide, which is the 55th, shows clearly how, because of the tireless effort of the Prime Minister, he has gained the trust of the people. In fact, that trust of our people in our Prime Minister has actually elevated the status of India globally, and today India's voice is heard very powerfully. So now I go through the slide, but you will see most of what I have said broadly will be covered. So this is a very important quote which I'd like to highlight to you. For the first time in the country, the poor have got security as well as dignity. Those who were made to realize for decades that they are a burden on the development of the country, today they are speeding up development of the country. Every paisa of what is earned through tax money is being spent properly for serving the poor. The vaccine is a classic example. You have covered a lot, you've written a lot on it. Vaccination cover, 220 doses, all free for our people and achieved in record time. And even today, many of the parts of the world are surprised how we have achieved that. Yesterday, in fact, many of you who watched the program in the new parliament must have seen how Prime Minister made a very interesting comparison. He said, look, for our people's representatives who are all here and who are going to legislate here and make laws here for the country, this new building is going to serve them. But we've never forgotten that every poor Indian wants a pakka house for himself. And that's what in the last 9 years has been achieved. 3.5 crore pakka houses have been constructed. Now, houses without toilets, from the time Prime Minister spoke about it on the Red Fort, and making sure that after that, that issue of women's security, safety and dignity is protected, toilets were being constructed and 11.72 crores of toilets have been already built for the sake of our people, of which 100% coverage has been achieved in rural India. Whereas it was only 13% earlier in 2013-14. Now, access to water in houses, again, 12 crore households have been covered with access to pure and good drinking water. You all know the story of Ujjwala. 9.6 crore families have been given free connection and then the cylinders are being used. There are always this discussion about now when the prices have gone up, what happens? 200 rupees per cylinder, unlimited number of cylinders we are subsidizing even today. So the prices have gone up not because we want to increase the price, it's a global fact and we are importing it, but we have made sure that 200 rupees goes to the account the moment the order for another cylinder is booked. Then this fact about which Deputy Chief Minister Fadnavis Saab referred, 80 crore people for 2 full years have been given totally free grains and some quantity of pulses so that some protein is also supplied to them, and that even today when we go for international meets in the World Bank or IMF has been acclaimed as one of the biggest food security programs in the world, achieved without fail, and it reached the people even during the lockdown. Again, a fact which Fadnavis ji referred to is cover up to 5 lakh crores for medical facilities for all the poor people. This is a very sensitive topic which even our Honorable Prime Minister spoke from the Dread Fort. So are we making sure that the poor girls are given sanitary equipments and sanitary pads? So that today is being given through Jan Aushadhi Kendras, 1 rupee per pad available in Jan Aushadhi Kendras. There's no doubt that it has made a big change to the poor people. Jan Aushadhi Kendras is something which I already spoke about. For lifestyle related diseases, where people were spending more than about 4,000, 5,000 rupees per month on getting medicines for that. Today that very set of medicines is available between 800 and 1,000 rupees for the same set of medicines, provided they were generically bought. I mean, they are generic drugs rather than branded. It's brought down medical expenses, out of pocket expenses drastically down for people. This is a story which we have said in the Parliament several times. During the pandemic and immediately after that, international fertilizer prices shot up the roof. 95% of all the fertilizers that Indian farmers use are imported. There are 3 or 4 different categories they bring in, and all these are largely imported. And 1 or 2 of them became so expensive. But Prime Minister Modi was very clear that we can't let the farmers not have adequate fertilizers, but at the same time we can't shift the burden of the price to them. So the entire cost of increase was borne by the central government, and the farmer was paying the same price that he paid before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and even after the pandemic, and no increase has been shifted to the farmer. Loans to buy seeds and 6,000 rupees per farmer, Kisan Samman Nidhi. I move also to talk about the social justice. 10% EWS quota has really helped a lot of poor families. There are very many anecdotal stories about how children coming from such families have today found admission in courses which they would have otherwise not dreamed about. Backward Classes Commission is a milestone achievement, and it is disappointing to say that today the leading opposition, which constantly questions about, what are you doing for poor, this is, you have a Central Vista program costing so much, but are you doing for the poor, were the very same people who opposed the formation of Backward Class Commission. I wish and honestly request the media humbly that such questions should be asked of the opposition when they talk as though, this expenditure on the parliament is not required, it should have been spent on poor people. You didn't even support the Backward Classes Commission for a very long time. They stood against it. This is a step which I duly thank the Honorable Prime Minister for having brought this category till then people were just saying handicapped, physically handicapped, mentally handicapped, whatever. He gave them a dignity by saying they have a quality which is not found in ordinary people and called them Divyang. And then 7 to 21 categories have now been, where it was just 7 categories, 21 other categories have also been brought in. 77 categories have gone up to 21, and that is respect which is being given to Divyang. By increasing the categories, the facilities and the government support also increases. Now this is something which I will very quickly pass through. In the last 9 years, 74 new airports have been added, whereas till 2014 India had only 74. So 74 plus 74 is what we have now. Similarly, road construction till 2014, 91,000 odd kilometers, now additionally 53,000 odd kilometers. 9 years, there was no attempt to build any waterways in India, although it is cost effective. You have 111 being done in India, inland waterways. Vande Bharat Express, not with that name, any other name. No improved version of a railway coach system was introduced earlier. We brought in Vande Bharat in the last 9 years, 20 of them. Similarly, metros have come in a big way to reduce the cost of the middle class, which move in urban areas from their residence to place of work and movement, and therefore public transport, bringing cost of fuel, bringing down total payment that we go up for importing fuel can considerably come down once metros gets used. Now 15 cities in India have metros. This is a very important slide, I would think. Higher education has received so much importance. 15 new AIIMS have been built, whereas we had only 7 till 2014. 700 new medical colleges have been built, whereas we had 641 all put together till 2014. And this has resulted in 69,663 new medical seats, whereas till now, till 2014, in all put together, you had only 82,000 seats. Similar story for IITs. 16 till 2014, we've added 7 in the last 9 years. Added 7 IIMs in the last 9 years. 390 new universities in the last 9 years. So you have numbers speaking for how much for skilling and how much for higher education the government has invested, and the cost is borne by the central government because manpower comes from them, land comes from the state, and the resources are all pooled for higher education. Now this is a very important slide, considering that I've told you huge amount of fertilizers, the traditional types, are being imported even now, whereas India has done a massive progress in identifying liquid nano urea, which will be useful for us, and as a result the manufacturing plant has also been set up. And one thing I like to add here, liquid nano urea is so important from so many different aspects. Unlike the traditional fertilizer, which is thrown on the ground, sprayed like that and falls on the ground, and then you water the plant, the fertilizer and its traits go to the soil. Whereas a nano liquid fertilizer is sprayed on the leaves. So it goes to the leaves directly and not to the soil. Effectiveness of a fertilizer reaches directly to the plant rather than from the soil through the root, through the stem, and then to the branches. This actually goes to the leaf directly, and the photosynthesis happens so quickly, and therefore the plant gets the full benefit of the urea. Whereas when you do it to the land, it does take time. Residual fertilizer remains in the soil, and the soil therefore, when it gets the rain, has the water with the fertilizer leftovers, which is what the plant will drink and which is what will also come in the groundwater. So this is a lot more eco-friendly and healthy. So India now produces its own nano liquid fertilizer. Then the various projects which I said, inland waterways and also for agriculture, Sarayu, Bogibeel, Kosi and Kollam bypass. Interesting story about Kollam bypass I would like to add here. There are several projects in India, like the Kollam, which has been waiting for decades. Now Kollam takes the cake actually because it has waited for 5 decades. Like any other government, Modi government also could have just said, oh, it's been waiting for 5 decades, what's my problem? But Prime Minister Modi has gone into the details of why is it being held up, why is it being held up till now, what are the problems, address it, get it all sorted out and complete it. 5 decades of pending and it's now got achieved. Railway station story, you know, railway stations means poor people largely use it, airports are used by people who can afford it, but why should railway stations suffer by being not really kept up to the, standards which common people also should enjoy? So many of the railway stations have been improved. Some marquee projects like highest railway bridge is the Chenab Bridge, engineering marvel, and the cost all put together stands out as a signature project for India. Also, pride of place given for the unifier of India. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel gets his tallest statue and that's become a big tourist site. It's also a symbol of Ek Bharat, Shreshth Bharat. World's longest highway tunnel has been built and that's been rightly named Atal Tunnel, which is in the Lahore Spiti area of Himachal Pradesh. Grand infrastructure plan. This is one thing on which I'd like to say a word. Gati Shakti actually is such a fantastic portal, efficient portal, through which for constructing any project, you need so many different permissions, so many different authorities, so many different states, all of them will have to play a role, and therefore every project has a tendency to get delayed or get stuck in one place. When you go through PM Gati Shakti, 1,600 layers are laid over one another and you eventually see through all the layers as to where exactly this project is coming and how many authorities have still not given you the clearance. And by building it there, do you really get cost efficiencies, or are you building something which has exactly the same thing within a kilometer and therefore it's only going to be a burden on the exchequer? Is it going to bring you economic multiplier? So efficiency, cost efficiency, and also possibility of at one go getting a picture of how many authorities will have to clear it are all obtained by PM Gati Shakti. Today, whether it's the islands of Andaman Nicobar or Lakshadweep or border roads, all of them go through these filters which are provided by Gati Shakti, and that is one of the reasons we are able to speedily complete projects. Digital India revolution is a big story. On its own, it can be one full session. I'll just tell you, through DBT, we have saved, India government has saved quite a lot of money because of the efficiency in identifying where the pilferage is happening, who are the bogus claimant, and so on. So DBT has actually brought in efficiency and also stopping pilferages. Aadhaar Mobile Trinity has actually made today Indians receive money into their account directly, whereas during the COVID, you came to know how in the United States, for instance, they were writing checks and posting it, none of which reached the beneficiary because most of them left the houses, they couldn't pay the rent, they went into their parents' apartments, and therefore these benefits which were sent to them could not even reach. Whereas India, every beneficiary's account received that money at the press of the button. Atmanirbhar Bharat in 5G, leading mobile manufacturer, and so on. This is one story which again can be spoken at length. Beating United Kingdom and reaching the level of 5th largest economy. We were at the 11th position and at the 5th position was UK. Today we've moved upwards and UK has fallen down. So it's a very big achievement for an emerging market economy. That story by itself is worth talking about, and we are still the fastest growing economy this year and for next year as well. Global rankings, about which of course all of you all know, I don't want to elaborate, you will get it in your hand. Ease of doing business, manufacturing rank of mobiles and so on. Unicorns and startups, emerging youth power. You've seen the headings there. I told you that there are 2 slides on which we are talking about the culture and civilizational developments. You had a circuit, which is Buddha circuit, which is very popular among foreign tourists. Mahankal corridor, like the Kashi corridor, Ujjain corridor is now the big thing, so that the pilgrims or tourists are able to see the true and complete picture of the place. Somnath temple and the Kedarnath Dham, Char Dham, as to how it has been improved, and Kartarpur Sahib, which is a very important thing for the Sikh pilgrims, has also been developed acutely. And now if you look at it further, Ram Mandir has been achieved after a long court tussle. The Mandir is getting ready. By hopefully end of this year or early January 2024, it should be open for the public. Connectivity across Northeast. Every state has an airport. Every state capital has now got the infrastructure facility which they didn't have. 1 or 2 states which did not have railway connectivity in the Northeast, in their headquarters, have all got it now. Natural wildlife, Project Cheetah, Namami Gange. Lifestyle for environment has become big, because it's dependent on a nudge to change the way in which we live, so that climate action can be further strengthened. National security, I told you, has just one, talking about the surgical strike and airstrike, and also Article 370 being abolished. More importantly, I told you about the national security aspects on Atmanirbharta. Defense production has surpassed 1 lakh crores. Cutting edge equipments are also now being given to the armed forces, and border roads infrastructure is something which is remarkable achievement. And here it will not be out of place if I say how one earlier defense minister had told us, and he said it publicly, that if you build roads in the border, only the enemy will use it and he'll probably get into the country sooner, so we've not built border roads. Contrast that with what is happening in the border roads now. At the highest altitude and the farthest place which connects the forests of Myanmar, roads have been laid, telephone connectivity has been given, mobile towers are provided, some of them are equipped now till 4G, but sooner they will also get 5G. I told you about the Indians who have all been brought back, 20,000 brought back safely from Syria, Libya, Yemen, Sudan, Nepal and Afghanistan. 2.97 crore Indians were brought back during the COVID pandemic. Flights had stopped, Indians couldn't come back, they have been brought back safely. G20 is happening, and we've taken Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam as our slogan, which translates for the global convenience: one earth, one family, one future. India's stature abroad has grown manifold. We are today sitting at the high table determining many things which are globally being discussed and decided upon. You have the role that India's Prime Minister plays, which has brought many global leaders together to confer that kind of a stature to India. You've heard the comments which have come by different leaders. So the nation today expresses its gratitude for forming a government with a full majority, and trust is the foundation of this development. People are being trusted by the government, and that's why very many laws are being decriminalized so that businesses don't suffer severe punishment for small omissions and commissions. That is because we trust people. Similarly, tax has become faceless in its assessment because we trust people. And people in turn trust Prime Minister Modi because he would put nation first above himself or the party, and therefore That's the kind of leadership people have voted for, and he's been serving the last 9 years. Thank you.
यानंतर केंद्रीय अर्थमंत्री या नववर्षाच्या संदर्भात जे काही आपले प्रश्न असतील त्या वार्तालाप अर्थमंत्री निर्मला मॅडम त्या ठिकाणी करणार आहेत. मी मान्यवरांना विनंती करतो की व्यासपीठावर बसून घ्यावं. सन्माननीय मान्यवरांनी व्यासपीठावर बसावं अशी मी विनंती करतो. कॉर्डलेस माईक 2-3 द्या पत्रकारांमध्ये. प्रश्नोत्तराचं स्वरूप किंवा वार्तालाप जो करायचा आहे तो पर्टिक्युलर 9 वर्षाच्या मोदी साहेबांच्या कारकिर्दीवर या ठिकाणी वार्तालाप होणार आहे. त्याच्यामुळे फोकस आपल्या सगळ्या विषयांचा हा 9